Welcome! In this explainer, we're going to break down one of the biggest ideas in all of economics, and it comes from Adam Smith's legendary book, The Wealth of Nations. We're talking about the division of labor. Now, this is an idea that pretty much explains our entire modern world, and it all starts with something, well, incredibly simple. A pin.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that Adam Smith himself was obsessed with. How in the world is it possible for one worker to produce the equivalent of 4,800 pins in a single day? I mean, that number sounds, well, it sounds impossible, right? But the answer unlocks one of the biggest secrets of our economy. Just look at the difference here. It's absolutely staggering. If you take one person with no specialized training and ask them to do every single step of making a pin by themselves, they'd be lucky to make even one pin a day. Maybe. But you put that same person in a factory where they specialize, and suddenly their output just explodes to 4,800. This isn't just a little improvement, it's a complete game changer. To understand how this magic trick works, Smith takes us inside a small, probably pretty boring-looking pin factory. It's right here, in this totally ordinary place, that he found the very engine of economic growth. So this is the number that just blew Smith's mind. In this little workshop, he observed, there were only 10 workers, and they weren't even master craftsmen or anything, but together they were churning out a combined 48,000 pins every single day. That's just an incredible feat of productivity. So what was the secret sauce? It wasn't that the workers were superhuman. Nope. It's that the really complicated job of making one pin was broken down into about 18 different, really simple little tasks. You had one guy whose only job was to draw out the wire. Then another guy would straighten it, a third would cut it, a fourth would grind a point on it, and so on and so on. So how does just breaking a task into tiny pieces lead to such a massive explosion in output? Well, Smith boiled it down to 3 key reasons, and this is really the core of his whole theory. So here are the 3 big advantages. First, you get really, really good at what you're doing. When your whole job is just one simple task, you do it over and over and you become an expert. You get faster, you get more precise. Second, you save a ton of time. You're not constantly putting down one tool to pick up another or moving to a different workstation. And third, and this one's really clever, it encourages innovation. When your entire job is one simple motion, you're way more likely to think, there's got to be a better way to do this, and maybe even invent a machine to do it for you. And to really illustrate that third point, Smith tells this great little story about a boy who was working on an early steam engine. His only job was to open and close a valve. That's it. Well, he wanted more time to go play with his friends, so he figured out a way to tie a string from the valve to another moving part of the engine. And just like that, the machine was opening and closing the valve all by itself. Boom. Innovation, born from wanting to make his own specialized job easier. But that raises a bigger question, right? What makes us divide up labor like this in the first place? It's not like someone sat down and drew up a grand master plan. Smith says it's because of something way more basic, something deep in our human nature. See, this whole system doesn't come from some top-down command. Smith argues it's the slow, natural result of our tendency to, as he put it, truck, barter, and exchange. It's just what we do. If you're a better hunter and I'm better at making bows and arrows, it just makes sense for you to hunt, for me to make the tools, and for us to trade. That simple act is what encourages us to specialize in the first place. And he points out that this is uniquely human. I mean, think about it. Nobody has ever seen a dog walk up to another dog and make a fair, deliberate trade for a bone. This kind of complex economic cooperation, where we all trade our specialized skills and products, that's our thing. And this leads to one of Smith's most famous and important points. Our entire system of cooperation isn't built on kindness or charity. It's built on self-interest. The baker doesn't bake bread because he's a great guy who wants to feed you. He bakes bread because he wants your money so he can go buy meat from the butcher. The whole system works because it brilliantly aligns everyone's personal interests. Okay, so this incredible engine of specialization sounds almost unstoppable. But it's not. It has a very real and very important constraint that decides just how far it can actually go. And here it is, plain and simple. The division of labor is limited by the size of the market. You can only specialize if you have enough customers to sell your stuff to. Smith uses this great example of a nail maker. You could be the best nail maker in the world, living in a tiny village in the Scottish Highlands, but after you've made a few thousand nails, who's left to buy them? So the key to a bigger market, and therefore more specialization, is transportation. You have to be able to get your goods to more people. And back in Smith's day, water transport was king. It was just vastly more efficient. A single boat could carry the same amount of stuff as a huge, expensive caravan of wagons and horses on land. And if you think about it, this is exactly why the first great civilizations didn't pop up in the middle of giant continents. No way. They grew along coastlines and big rivers. The Nile, the Ganges, the Mediterranean. These waterways were basically the first commercial highways, connecting them to a huge market and allowing all that amazing specialization to happen. So what happens when you put it all together? What happens when you combine this incredibly powerful principle of specialized labor with a huge interconnected market? Well, you get the exact thing Smith named his book after. The end result of all this insane efficiency isn't just that a few rich people get richer. It creates what Smith called a universal opulence. Basically, a society that is so productive, so wealthy, that even the common laborer, the poorest person, has access to more goods and comforts than a king might have had in a less developed society. To really drive this point home, Smith asks us to do a little thought experiment. Just think about a super simple everyday object, like a common worker's wool coat. And when you do, you start to see this hidden world of global cooperation behind it. It's a fantastic example. So, obviously, it starts with the shepherd, right? The person who raises the sheep that give us the wool. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because from there, the wool has to go to the sorter, the carder, the spinner who makes the thread, the weaver who makes the cloth. Then it goes to the dyer who might be using pigments that came from halfway around the world, brought by merchants and sailors on massive ships. But wait, think about the tools. I mean, even the simple shears that the shepherd uses to clip the wool, they required a whole other network of miners digging up ore, smelters melting it down, and blacksmiths forging it into a tool. And honestly, look at this list. It doesn't even begin to cover it. You've got the shipbuilders, the sailmakers, the loggers who cut the timber for the weaver's loom. Smith says that literally thousands of people, most of whom will never, ever meet each other, all have to cooperate through the market just to make one simple coat. It's an invisible network. So, Adam Smith's incredible insight, which started in a simple pin factory more than 2 centuries ago, shows us that we live inside this gigantic web of constant, silent, global cooperation. And it's something to think about, not just the next time you put on a coat, but as you look at the very device you're using to watch this right now. What incredible, invisible network made that possible?